The intersection adjacent to the rose garden was very interesting for us. Watch closely what this bicyclist does when he gets to the red light. Also notice that there's a bicycle box providing an advanced bike stop bar, allowing a queuing area for cyclists. When the traffic signal turns green, the cyclist will have the ability to move first before the motorized traffic, including the right turning traffic. Also note that in a moment, the signal will show a simultaneous red and yellow indication, indicating that it is about to turn green. You will also see the traffic signal have a flashing yellow beacon indicating that right-turning motorists must yield to pedestrians. There's also a red light camera in the foreground adjacent to the black SUV here that catches red light runners. Let's look at some of the other legs of the intersection. Again, the Swiss use the yellow for bike lane markings and pedestrian crossings. They're not bashful about using pavement markings. Here is the opposite leg of the intersection. Note the left-turning cyclist remains stationary while the through traffic is released. We'll be taking a closer look at the traffic signals here in a moment. Note that there is a transit signal, a through signal for motorists, a right turn signal for motorists, and a through and right turn signal for bicyclists with a convex Trixie mirror, all on one near side signal pole. This intersection is well suited to the needs of this family of bicyclists. On the approach to one leg of this intersection, bicycle markings indicate that through and right turn bike movements should be made from the curbside bike lane, and left turn bike movements should be made from the left turn lane. Note that the through right lane adjacent to the bike lane has a through movement yellow arrow for bus traffic. Overall, these lane markings provide guidance for both motorists and bicyclists, allowing people to queue up in the lane corresponding to the movement they want to make at the intersection. One leg of this intersection is served by bicyclist delayed left turn markings. These markings allow a bicyclist to make a left turn via a two-stage movement. First, by making a through movement through the intersection, then stopping on the delayed left turn marking, getting a second traffic signal detect from the in-pavement loop, then proceeding on the subsequent green signal so they can make a left turn without having to find a gap in oncoming traffic. Note the layout of the marking in front of the crosswalk. This leg of the intersection is served by a bicycle box in front of the motorist stop bar. Therefore, the bicycle traffic signal is on the far side of the intersection, since bicyclists are ahead of the near side traffic signal used by motorists. Let's take a closer look at how this intersection operates. Here we see motorists queued up, get the red-yellow indication prior to their green. Currently, they can make a left turn, through movement, and right turns with the flashing yellow beacons indicating they must yield to pedestrians in the adjoining crosswalk. Our hosts indicated that near-side traffic signals are effective at reducing motorist encroachment on the pedestrian crosswalk, as they will be unable to see their traffic signal if they overshoot the stop bar. Here is a close-up view of the signal phasing for all four of these signals. Note that the transit signal is in stop position the entire time. Through movement, motorist, and through movement bike movements are made in advance of the lagging right turn motorist signal, allowing cyclists to proceed without being at conflict for right turning motorists. The convex Trixie mirrors are located on the traffic signal poles adjacent to the signal heads and are very effective in allowing motorists to see bicyclists who may be overtaking them on the right in a bike lane in order to reach the advanced stop bar. Our hosts indicated these mirrors are very effective, reducing right turn hook type crashes with bicyclists. You can see me in my yellow vest taking video from the motorist's vantage point in several of these clips. These mirrors are internally heated so they do not frost up in the wintertime. These mirrors are specifically positioned on the signal poles so a motorist will be able to see a cyclist well, both in the through lane and left turn lane bike boxes. Here is an example of a bike lane on an arterial street at an intersection with another arterial street. The bike lane is defined on the sign above the traffic signal and with the yellow pavement markings the Swiss use for bike lanes. Note this lane is provided between two through movement lanes of travel. About half a mile further, the right lane will be used to access the freeway interchange, Many turning merging movements will be taking place at this interchange. Therefore, this bike lane is located between these two lanes to reduce conflicts at the interchange. Note how the bike lane is defined through the intersection with the yellow pavement markings. Look how well this family is able to negotiate this layout. In a moment, we'll see approaching traffic from a intersecting leg of the intersection. Note how these motorists successfully merge and yield to the bicyclists in the bike lane. Consider how this layout would be viewed by American traffic engineers and American bicyclists. But in Switzerland, their style of operations means this sort of facility works quite well. Again, the same approach to the same intersection. Look how bicyclists are able to queue up between the two lanes of through movement traffic. Look how well the bike lane is defined through the intersection. Look at the relationship of the traffic signal to the pedestrian crosswalk that results in reduced encroachments by motorists. This layout works out well. In Switzerland, we found that motorists were quite responsible, controlled, careful, thoughtful, and attentive. It was quite a bit different from similar operations at corresponding intersections that we'd see in the United States. We did not see any obvious law enforcement. We did observe an underlying social compact and ingrained traffic safety education that resulted in these sorts of operations between modes. Here, a bicyclist approaching the intersection from an intersecting leg is also able to use the through movement bike lane located between the two through movement lanes of travel. The speed limit here was 50 kilometers per hour, the equivalent of 30 miles an hour, and we saw motorists operated in compliance with that. Note the overhead signs defining the bike route condition on the street, providing guidance that it continues through the interchange. Here is an upstream view of the leg of the intersection we have been looking at. Notice how bicyclists are stopped in their own bike lane with an advanced stop bar defined in yellow for them. This bike lane is also served by an in-pavement loop detector, and this layout worked out quite well. Here is a pan view of the intersection. Note the layout of the bike lane with advanced stop line, the pedestrian crosswalk with median refuge, the bike lane channelizing markings within the intersection, and the overall quantity of both through movement and turning movement channelizing markings within the intersection box. At another leg of the intersection, we see a total of 4 sets of pedestrian signal heads to provide a pedestrian crossing of the 2 sets of through movement lanes and the 2 sets of right turn bypasses. Each of these signals is located with a pedestrian refuge with a pedestrian push button, so additional time can be called if needed. Look at the sequential operations of the pedestrian signal heads here. It is reasonably foreseeable that this pregnant woman and her family are going to move more slowly than a design speed pedestrian. Consider the value of the pedestrian refuge and the supplemental pedestrian push button in the island. Note the checkerboard layout of this neighborhood traffic circle pavement markings. The inset lane edge stripe provides a pusher island effect. The Swiss are keen on school children's safety. Each side of this triangular school zone pavement marking is easily 8 feet long. Note how prominently this marking shows up on the street. Ausgenommen means accepted. We frequently saw bicycle accepted signage allowing two-way use of otherwise one-way streets. This worked out quite well, actually. Regulatory signs exempted bicyclists from one-way and turning restriction conditions. Jug handle left turns are made from a storage area behind the right curb line with an actuated bicycle left turn signal and a Trixie mirror. These worked out quite efficiently. In construction work zones, temporary orange pavement markings are used for bike lanes, pedestrian crosswalks, lane striping, median striping, and yield markings at intersections. These markings are quite conspicuous and serve to convey the temporary layout of the construction work zone condition. Next, we saw valet underground bike parking.
Able to park your bicycle here, you have to pay a yearly fee. It's 150 francs, $150 approximately. And if you want to park it just for one day, it's 1 franc a day.
But that 1 franc a day won't pay for the true cost of this.
No.
So where do the subsidies come from?
Come from the city of Bern. And it's like this is a project for long-term unemployed. They work here, and they also rent out these bikes. There's another place in town which rents out the bikes. People who are long-term unemployed, it's a program to reintegrate them in the working process. And they can stay here for half a year or longer and to learn to do repair works. Some people have been unemployed for a long time and they're not used to working with customers, have other maybe problems, and therefore they're trained to work, to get back into the workforce again. And the city of Bern built this together with other partners. We have to pay a little bit to the Federal Railways for the place, but they also then pay for bicycle parking around the station, so it's a rather complex model. Seemed to work. And it's not quite full yet here, this place, but it's only been open 2 years.
Next, we visited the city of Winterthur, Switzerland. It is the 6th largest Swiss city. It has transportation modal splits of 21% bicycle, 18% pedestrian, 30% motor vehicle, and 31% transport. Here is a neighborhood traffic calmed area with a speed limit of 18 miles an hour. We saw frequent use of red pavement markings within bike lane markings or within cycle track markings across intersections. These made it quite prominent that the motorist was going to be crossing a bicycle corridor. Note the traffic signal detection loop at the stop bar at the cycle track. The cycle track has actuated bicycle traffic signals. Here you see the bicycle signal head directly adjacent to the motorist right turn signal. This makes it very clear when the bike has the green through movement indication and the right turning motorist must wait. Here is another example of the near side traffic signals so common in Switzerland. We see a through movement transit signal, a right turning motorist signal, a through movement cycle track signal, and a right turn cycle track signal. The specific indications of each signal and the black and white markings on the backing plates beneath the signals make it quite clear which signal indications are for whom. When right-turning cyclists on the cycle track might conflict with through-movement pedestrians in a crosswalk, the flashing yellow beacon is actuated. We were extremely impressed with the Winterthur Traffic Garden. This area was built in 1978 to increase road safety, with traffic instruction as a compulsory subject in school. There are many plantings on the site, which are tended to by the local garden club. School children are brought here twice a year and receive instruction from police officers. This includes both classroom and on-bike training. They are taught how to ride through roundabouts, regular intersections, obey traffic signals, yield to pedestrians in crosswalks, and construction work zones. Next, we visited London, England. Some of their streets are traffic calmed, meaning that motorists can only make outbound movements, whereas bicyclists can make full movements, including via contraflow bicycle lanes. This includes at intersections with major arterials. While some of the geometry on the approaches to these intersections was quite sharp, it still appeared to function. Special traffic signals were in place, forcing motorists to turn onto the arterial, unable to continue across the intersection on the neighborhood street. Bicycle signals provided for bicyclists to make full movements here, providing continuity in the bicycle route network. We saw many interesting pedestrian treatments in London. This included pedestrian zones where the entrances had raised crosswalks and cobblestones to slow down motorists, and special signing indicating that motorists must yield to all pedestrians in the street and proceed at pedestrian speed. Pedestrian push buttons had illuminated confirmation lights with rotating buttons providing tactile information to people with disabilities. The pedestrian signals were on near-side signal poles and aligned so that pedestrians would be looking upstream at oncoming traffic rather than at a far-side pedestrian signal on the far side of the street. In conclusion, there is much to learn from Europe about bike and ped facilities. Special thanks to our trip sponsors, FHWA, AASHTO, and NCHRP.